foolish mortals.
Hello there. Are you insane? Get out of here!
Remain seated with your seatbelt fastened.
Right, off you go.
Welcome to Average Joe Orlando. Hello, theme park goers. Welcome to another front row review and advice. This one is for Universal's Islands of Adventure, located at Universal Orlando Resort at Universal Studios, Florida. I always think of the old Nickelodeon shows. Might be dating myself there when they would zoom in at the end of the globe and be like, Clarissa Explains It All was filmed in front of a live audience. I think of it every time I go over there. Anyway, so Islands of Adventure. So in these podcasts, I like to give the review and advice. So if you're planning to go to Islands of Adventure or want to learn some more things, talk about maybe some of the best rides to do, places to eat, things to see, some do's and don'ts for the park. So let's dive in to Universal's Islands of Adventure. So some facts and stats. Islands of Adventure opened in 1999, which now seems like a long time ago. However, it still feels like a newer park. It's fun. It kind of has that early 2000s charm with the music when you walk in. But yeah, it just still feels fresh and new and still gets voted number one theme park in America just because they have so many rides in there. They have 18 rides. 5 of them are coasters. 3 of them are water rides. So a good layout in the park. And there's a lot going on. So let's start with when you walk up to it. So the whole theme of Universal's Islands of Adventure is you go through different islands, and they're all connected by different bridges. And you start with the port of entry. So you start at the beginning, and there's that big lighthouse with the symbol, and it starts with the original music. So if you have heard the music before, you know it. I know I listened to it at work on YouTube. I have found it. You can't find it on Spotify anymore. I don't know why. Maybe they sell a CD, but I wouldn't know where to play that if I had it. But YouTube, I have found the soundtrack. So they have the port of entry. And that's kind of the village and the market where you walk in and you start your day in the park and you start wandering in there. But before you even get there, let's talk about how you get into the park. So if you aren't aware, Universal Orlando at its current state now, this is recorded prior to Epic Universe being open, which would be their newest theme park, opening in 2025 down the road from their current park, which will be now the newest Universal theme park in the world. But that's down the road. So right now, you can park in the parking garage and go through security and take all those moving walkways, head through City Walk. And when you head through City Walk, stay to the left, because if you go to the right, you go to Universal Studios, Florida. And especially if you go there first thing in the morning, you'll notice the crowds kind of part ways. I do notice it seems like Universal Islands, and I spoke about this before in the podcast, is more of the tourist park. So if you're coming from out of town, here you are like, oh my gosh, Velocicoaster, Hagrid's, Wizarding World, the original, Spider-Man. You go there. If you're a local, you're more, it seems at least, to go to Universal Studios Florida, where you have E.T., The Mummy, Diagon Alley, Finnegan's, which seems to be everyone's number one priority. But it's just a funny kind of way that it goes. I find personally, I go to Universal Studios more than I go to Islands. Islands, great rides. However, I don't know if anybody else feels this way. I feel like I get trapped. So as you make your way around, it's a giant circle, the park, and it circles around a lagoon, so there's no cut through in the middle. And then if you're in like Jurassic Park, you're like, oh, we're going to get our steps in today, and then have to keep going. But we'll talk more about that in a little bit of which way to maybe start the park and go around. There's also for the hotels, if you're staying on a Universal on-site hotel, the boats will drop you off right in the front of City Walk, or you could take the walkway. I always like doing that one. I like going over to Royal Pacific a lot and walking over, and it pops right out at Jimmy Buffett, and you walk right into Islands of Adventure, and you start your day. So when you get there in front, there's the ticket booths. I always say don't buy your tickets when you're there because it takes forever and those lines are very long. I always feel bad when I get there. I like to go in the afternoon and the park lines are still so long, and I'm like, these people didn't even buy their tickets yet, and now they're spending an hour waiting to buy their ticket when they could be in the park waiting in line. Speaking of waiting in line, express passes, of course. So Universal does them much different than Disney. I think much better than Disney. But it's basically a one price. It's based on the attendance for the day. So if it's a busier day, holiday season, it's going to be more expensive. If it's less busy, it's not going to be as expensive. They have either for one park, 2 parks. I believe they have Volcano Bay. Don't know how that works. And then they also have, if you want unlimited, if you want one per ride, they have all different options. Personally, as a local, I opt for the highest annual pass because currently at this time it's a great price based on what you get for your value, and it comes with an after 4 express, which they also sell in the park, and you get that and you can go in the park. And really for me, it's just for Velocicoaster. I think that's the only reason I have it. Maybe I'll go on something else, but really after 4 o'clock, Velocicoaster. But as you go in, there's some things that you might want to pack with you too before you get into the park. I always say, if you want to do the water rides, bring a change of clothes. I know if I'm going to the water rides that day, I'm prepping beforehand, bringing my backpack, asking one of the team members there for a bag to put my clothes in so I could change completely because you are going to get soaked. We'll talk about those as we get around. Also, maybe bring a water bottle. You could bring an empty water bottle with you in the park, and you could actually go to all the Coke freestyle machines, hit the water button, and it comes out filtered water, which is nice because they do have about $6 bottles of water in the park. Especially during the summer, you're going to be drinking a lot of water, hopefully, and that's going to add up for the day. So bring an empty water bottle and just be filling it up throughout the day. So you enter into the port of entry, hear that epic music, see what I did, and you start your adventure. So that's where you could do all your shopping. There's the candy store. You can sign up for your Universal credit card as they are pushing, take your pictures, hear and look at all the sights, but most people aren't even looking. They are just running because they want to go on a ride. Me personally, been on all the rides except for one in that park, and you're probably thinking it's the flying one, not Triceratops, pterodactyl flyers. Nope, I've been on that, and that is awesome. We'll talk about that when we get to Jurassic Park. I've never been on the Storm Force one, the one that spins, basically like teacups with tons of fans. I'm good. That'll ruin my day. That's the only ride I haven't been on in the park, but I'm okay. So you walk through Port of Entry. There's lots to look at. The whole idea is that this is the town. This is the place where everybody lives and comes back from the islands. The shop's set up. There's the customs place on the end of the walkway on the right, and that's where they confiscate anything. And if you go in there, it's a fun restaurant. It's called Confisco's, which means, I believe, customs or confiscate. I don't know. It's cool. And it's a restaurant in there, and they have all different items from all the different lands and a lot of cool Easter eggs for everything where you go through customs and they get compensated. There's a bar over there on the right-hand side too, which is always fun. If you want to go sit in one of the loudest chairs in the world, if you've been there at that bar, you sit outside and those chairs are heavy and they are loud, but it's great people watching. And you can sit there with a drink and just people watch, and in the distance watch the Velocicoaster go over the top. That's great. But where do you start? So you get to the end and you have to go left or right. So if you go left, you go to Marvel Superhero Island, or if you go to the right, you go to Dr. Seuss. So it's really depending on what you like to do. They always say in theme parks, I don't know who they are, don't go to the right. If you go to the right, that's where the crowds are. You want to go to the left. Like, nobody goes to the left. I don't know how true that is, but it really depends on what I want to do. This time, I'm going to say let's go to the left. I'm going to skip over Cinnabon and Starbucks because I don't need sugar to start my day, but there is a Cinnabon and Starbucks right there. And you cross over your first bridge into your first island, and that's Marvel Superhero Island. It's so fun that they have Marvel here because it's I like seeing the difference between how Disney has done Marvel and how Universal did Marvel in the 90s. And then you look at a ride like the Spider-Man ride that was built in 1999, and then you look at Disney's Web Slingers ride, and you go, wow, a brand new Disney ride. And it's terrible. I'm sorry. That Web Slingers ride is so boring. The Spider-Man ride at Universal holds up, and that is a great ride. And yes, they copied that same ride system now for Transformers and the Jurassic World at Beijing, but it's a great ride system, a great ride. It's one of those simulators with the live sets that move you around, but it doesn't really get you that nauseous like a lot of the other ones do. Overall, Spider-Man ride, worth it. There's the Doctor Doom Freefall ride, which is just a freefall, launches you up, great views of the park or maybe of I-4. There's the Storm spinning ride where no thanks. And then, of course, the Hulk. And the Hulk roller coaster is the big one that you see and you hear as soon as you go in the park. It launches you out the tunnel. I black out on it now, which sounds terrible. But halfway through, I'm like, ooh, everything's getting dark. So that might be a skip one now. But they did redo it a few years ago where they ripped up the entire track and replaced it because it was getting so rough. So it's nice to see that they're still investing money over there into everything. There's also Annie Ann's Pretzels over there. That's a must-do for me. There's a few food places where you can get some basic theme park food. However, for some reason, Universal Pizza is just great. But Marvel Superhero Island can be your first stop when you go in there. and start hitting up some good rides. And they have a good group of rides over there. Your next island, cross the bridge, get to the next island for Islands of Adventure, is the cartoon area. So that is where you have all the different old school cartoons, a lot of ones that people just never heard of. It definitely feels a little more dated, especially I know some of them, but even I don't know who they are. Some and the other ones I'm like, oh, these are cool. I like the Popeye ride. To me, the Popeye ride, Bluto's Barges, is I'm sorry, this is Two Lagoon, the whole area. Bluto's Barges is going to be the Popeye raft ride. So if you think like Holly River Rapids, however, triple the length and a lot more fun, that's going to be the Popeye ride. You will get soaked on it. In the back, they have the Me Ship the Olive, which is like an interactive boat where you can go play on it, and there's things for kids, and there's a lot of things that you could play on and press buttons. However, there's water guns at the top where you could shoot people with water as they're on the ride, as if they're not already soaked enough. It's also some great viewing area back there to just, if you just want to watch people get soaked, because the first turn is when it starts. I'm doing it with my hands right now, so you can't tell, but I'm showing you the first turn because this is a podcast, and that makes sense. Good job, Joe. But the first turn comes around, and that's where all the water is dumping out, and you just see everybody come around the corner, and you know who's never been on the ride before because their eyes just get big, and they go, no, 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 and then they're all soaked. So it's just fun to stand there. Great place for people watching. There's also going to be over there the Dudley Do-Right ride, which is a log flume attraction, which is really fun. A lot of kids don't know who Dudley Do-Right is, but the ride still holds up. It's a really fun ride. It is a tight squeeze because you are single, like loading down into a log. It is a tough one to get into, but it is a really fun ride as well. And then when you come around the corner, there's going to be the Jurassic Park River Adventure in the next land, but they're all pretty close together, these water rides. But these are the ones that I always say, like, bring a change of clothes and change, because you'll see there's a people dryer, and I think it's like $5 or $10 to stand in there and like go through a people dryer, but then there's always a line, so they must be making good money on it. But I would say just bring a change of clothes and change completely, because you are going to be soaked. You cannot come off these rides dry. So my advice is get changed, put on a bathing suit, a shirt. You have to wear shoes, so make sure you have on like sandals or something like that. You can't go barefoot. And then sit in the tube with all these other people that are fully dressed in their normal clothes and just watch them all go, oh no, what did I do? And you're like, ha ha ha. That's evil. Continuing around the corner is Skull Island. So this is the newest island, if you really want to call it an island, even though you cross a bridge to get to it, and then it's whatever. It's the King Kong ride. This ride was built when Universal was kind of doing a lot of copycats from their tram ride over in Hollywood. So over in Hollywood, they have the tram ride, which is, to me, the coolest ride because you get to go in the back lot of a real working movie studio. And during the tour, they have always, since its start, like done different sets and different like experiences. And one thing they did was Kong 3D, where you pull in and then the screens are around you, and it works on a tram ride. That's fine. It's just part of it. But as its own ride, it feels unnecessary. It's still better than Fast and the Furious Supercharged, but what isn't? But this just felt like one of those things where they took a piece of the tram ride, tried to add more to it, and it just didn't work. It's a cool facade. It's a cool queue. It's a really neat ride system because it's a self-driving like vehicle that's on a track, but it's a, one of those invisible tracks you can't tell. Each car has a different driver who's an animatronic, but also like the spiel is different for them. So the technology behind it is pretty cool. However, the ride itself isn't. But you get a cool Kong animatronic, so it's just nice to see King Kong back in the park. The next island will be Jurassic Park, which is an interesting one because it's a mix between Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. So I guess it's just Jurassic. But first is the Jurassic Park. That's the River Adventure ride over on the left. So there is the splash area where you can stand there and get soaked by the boats coming down. Or you can go on the actual ride, which is a lot of fun. The ride really, storyline doesn't make sense. You're in Jurassic Park. The dinosaurs got out because they bumped you into like their area, and then the dinosaur comes to get you and you escape, and then I guess you just go home. It kind of just ends. I always feel like there's a weird ending for that ride. Like, oh my gosh, the dinosaurs escaped, and then they say, please exit on your right into the gift shop. No panic. Everything's fine. There's also the kids area. So they have a really cool kids area on the right-hand side, and this has the Pterodactyl Flyers ride. Unfortunately, for that ride, which isn't open half the time, Super low capacity. It's 2 people per vehicle, and like they get dispatched very far apart. It's a super short ride. It's like 90 seconds, but it looks really cool. And it's one of those rides like you need a kid who's a certain height with a parent to go on. I debated just having a kid just so I can go on this ride, but that seems irresponsible. So I'm hoping my niece and nephew want to go one day and I could take them on it. I did get to ride years ago, and I have to say it was pretty cool. There's also a lot of trails in there, so great place just to walk around. There's a giant cave, good place to explore. There's a whole area with those dinosaurs that shoot the venom out or the poison out, but it's water, so there's a place where like you could literally just team up and start like shooting each other with water, or people that go by if they're not looking. But it's a fun area, great area for kids. There's not a lot for kids to do at this park, so it's kind of nice that they have this area too. The next area, you're going to keep going, through the park, and it kind of turns from Jurassic Park to Jurassic World. You could do the blue raptor encounter, which you always probably see on the commercials. You have the Velocicoaster, which is the newest roller coaster in that park, and then, which is fantastic. It's more of the Jurassic World theme, which is really fun. And then there's also places to eat and some games as well over there. There's a bar, which I feel like should be called Isla New Bar, like they have in California, but what do I know? The next area is going to be the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Now, this is the Hogsmeade section, or the OG section. This is the one that's been duplicated all over the world, but this was the original, and it still holds up to this day. It has the Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, where you sit on the bench and you throw up. They have the Flight of the Hippogriff, the kids' roller coaster, and then Hagrid. Now, Hagrid is a fantastic coaster if you can get on it. This is the place where people like to start in the morning. So I would say if you want to start at Hagrid's first thing in the morning, which, great, always highly recommend to do, but everybody's going to be running there too. You're going to want to start your day and go to the right and cut through Green Eggs and Ham to get over there. And don't run, walk, please. But Hagrid's is going to be a great coaster. You sit on a motorcycle or in the sidecar, and it goes in different directions. It's a fantastic roller coaster. However, it is extremely popular. So popular that Express Pass doesn't even work on it. So if you want to go on this ride and think, oh, well, I'll just buy Express Pass, they don't even accept it at this ride because it is so popular. The only way to get on this ride without waiting is to get a VIP tour guide for the day. And that's not cheap. Or wait. I will say the line does move if it's working okay. However, it is a long line, and you can check the app during the day. I have noticed everybody seems to run there first thing in the morning, and then it kind of goes through a little bit of a lull, and then it picks up again. So it's one of those rides, just keep checking, and be prepared to wait. And know, like, when you go in, you have to put your stuff in a locker, which we will talk about in a minute. And, and there's no bathrooms in the queue, so just be prepared to wait, but it is great. The next land is going to be... what is the next land called? Nothing's in there, so I always forget. The Lost Continent. Why did I not think about that? The Lost Continent. Unfortunately, there's really nothing here. It's kind of just there. Half the Lost Continent was built over. There was the Merlin Wood, which ended up turning into the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. They did have a Sinbad show, which closed. Not the guy from First Kid, like the Eighth Wonder. I don't know. There's a Sinbad show that used to be there. It's basically the extended queue for Hagrid. There's also used to be the Poseidon's Fury, and walk-through attraction, which closed. So it's a very kind of empty land. It's also really not IP-driven, so there's no intellectual property tied to it, so that's probably why it didn't last. But there's Mythos, which is apparently the number one theme park restaurant in the world, according to the sign in the front. However, it's okay. It's fine. And the next and final one will be Seuss Landing. So we made a full lap around the park. So this is the Dr. Seuss land. This land is really fun around Christmas time because they change it into, the Grinch is there and they have a meet and greet. The Who's walk around. They have a Grinch show. There's a Cat in the Hat ride, which used to spin a lot, but unfortunately doesn't anymore. There's One Fish, Two Fish, which is actually a water ride. It'll say up, 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 down, down, down. And you better listen or else you're going to get wet, wet, wet. There's a High in the Sky trolley train, and the carousel, and as well as a play area. So another cute area. They have the Green Eggs and Ham as well with the tots. So lots to do there. I mentioned earlier about the locker system. So a lot of the rides at Universal, if you aren't aware, has the lockers, and they do require you to put your stuff in a locker. If you're going on a bigger ride like I don't know if Hagrid's does it, but definitely the Hulk. They'll do metal detectors too to make sure, like, because they don't want anything flying out of the pockets. They are free to use while you're on the ride. You just need your park ticket to scan. And I know for me, like a lot of times, like I use my phone, so you just see a team member there, and they'll give you a card to scan as well. So you can go to the right or to the left if you're hitting Hagrid's first thing, or even Velocicoaster. I would say go to the right. If you're not, go to the left. For lunchtime, I would definitely say don't eat in the park or don't eat at peak times. It gets very busy. City Walk is a great place. Leave and come back. You're allowed to do that there. City Walk, you can make reservations on the app, or you can go over to guest services and they could help you book a reservation for lunchtime and then just come back in the park. Also, the park to me is the best time at night. Now, there is no technical like firework or nighttime spectacular. On certain nights, they do a projection show on the castle, which might have some little fireworks on there. And by castle, I mean Hogwarts. However, there's no big nighttime show at this time. However, the rumors are there might be one coming in the future. And then I would say for some do's and some don'ts in the park, I would say do, as I mentioned earlier, ride Hagrid's. Now, Hagrid's is called Hagrid's Magical Creature Motorbike Adventure. Yeah, that's it. But don't expect, as I mentioned, the short wait or express to work. That's going to be a really busy one. However, when you go to the park, look for single rider lines. A lot of the attractions at Universal, unlike Disney, have single rider lines. However, don't expect them to always be open. I have been up to Velocicoaster before, and sometimes it's open, sometimes it's closed. It depends how busy it gets, and it also sometimes doesn't move. It really depends on who's working up at the front, if they're grabbing the single riders and keep moving. If not, over there, I can tell you Spider-Man has one that's sometimes open. The Hulk also does. As I mentioned, Velocicoaster, Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. So there's a few rides that do offer the single riders. Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey also offers a tour, and you could ask for the castle tour, and that will, as long as it's not too busy, they'll let you through, and you could walk through the queue and get to see, because that's fantastic. Get to actually experience all that without having to go on the ride. It is a great ride. I do love it. However, it's definitely one of those that throw you around a little bit. And last but not least, do be prepared to put your items in a locker. As I mentioned earlier, they do require that on attractions. You can't have any loose belongings with you, and you won't want them on you while you go on the ride. However, don't leave them in the locker longer than allowed, because they will charge you. So it does tell you a lot of times, and they base the time for the lockers off of how long the queue is. So if it's like an hour wait, they'll probably give you like 90 minutes. But if you go over that, it will charge you. So don't think that, I'll just throw it in the locker for the day and I'll come back and get this. You won't be able to get it open without having to pay. So use them as you must. Or I know for me, if I'm not going on anything that needs a metal detector, I'll try to wear pockets that have like a zipper on it, or maybe give your items to a non-rider as well. But yeah, that was a lot of information. Take a breath. But I hope that was helpful, and I hope you learned something new, and I hope if you haven't been to Islands of Adventure, you decide to go in the future, because then I will see you at the park. Thanks for taking a ride with Average Joe Orlando.
You made it!
I knew you would. Is everyone okay? Hope you still want to open an account.
Say cheese! See you later!
Thanks, everybody. You were brilliant.
At this time, gather up your personal belongings and take your small grubs by their grubby little hands as you exit. Thank you.